These next set of awardees are about race. Ken Burns is one of the creators of the Central Park Five, but it looks and feels different from his big, stately, historical documentaries. Of course, it is about the 5 Black and Latino teenagers who spent over a dozen years in a prison for a notorious 1989 rape before the real rapist confessed, for telling a disturbing and instructive story of fear, racism, and mob mentality, and for documenting the media madness that fueled that investigation. The Central Park Five receives the Peabody Award.
I look back at the jogger case and wish I had been more skeptical as a journalist. You know, a lot of people didn't do their jobs. Reporters, police, prosecutors, defense lawyers. This was a proxy war being fought. And these young men were the proxies for all kinds of other agendas. And the truth and the reality and justice were not part of it.
Here to accept the Peabody Award is David McMahon, co-director, producer, and writer.
On behalf of my colleagues, Sarah Burns, firstly, who is sort of the driving force behind this project. She spent a decade researching the story, then writing a book about it, then making a film and telling everybody she possibly could about it. And she could not be here today because she's home with a 2-week-old. And Ken Burns and Stephanie Jenkins and Michael Levine, who's also not here, our editor. We want to thank the university and the Peabody Committee for this award. We're so excited to be receiving it. I also want to thank the Atlantic Philanthropies who supported the project, as well as the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and Bobby and Polly Stein. And we'd also like to thank our partners at WETA and PBS who have supported this for so long. I especially, though, want to say thank you to the 3 men who are standing here, Raymond Santana, Yusuf Salam, and Kevin Richardson. They, along with Corey Wise and Antron McCary, were so generous in sharing their stories with us. And it has now been 10 years since their convictions were vacated, and they are yet to receive justice. Thank you.
In the Race Card Project, NPR's Michele Norris had people talk about race using just 6 words, and discovered that 6 words can speak volumes.
Ask who I am, not what.
And when Jessica is asked this question, she often will say, well, I'm from Seattle, or I now live in New Orleans, but that doesn't get to the question. And then people often follow that up. No, where are you really from?
It's like people need to figure out that I was Korean so that they could put me in their Korean box. And I knew that there was a box because any time that I told them that I was Korean, everything else that was in that box came spilling out. Oh, you know, when I was in elementary school, my favorite friend, my best friend was Sarah Kim. We hang out every day. I hear about everybody's Korean best friend from childhood. I would have older gentlemen say, oh, I saved your country.
Accepting the Peabody is Michele Norris, host and special correspondent, NPR News, and founder and curator of the Race Card Project.
I've got 6 words for you. I can't believe this really happened. This is about the proudest day of my professional career, and I'd like to thank the team that made this happen, to Melissa Baer and Adrian Kinlock, who were there from the very beginning, to Walter Ray Watson, who uses his hungry ear and beautiful mind to create beautiful radio, to my web developer, Dave Patrick, to NPR for providing such a wonderful home for the Race Card Project, allowing us to use the power and intimacy of radio to approach a very complicated subject, especially to Steve Inskeep and Tracy Wall. Thanks to my family. My husband, Broderick Johnson, is here with my 3 wonderful children. I know sometimes you wish I was running something called the Race Car Project. It might be a little easier. The greatest satisfaction, I think, for all of us in this reward is knowing that we created this vehicle that allows people to listen to each other. One of our 6-word essayists said, sometime in the future, race might be a total non-issue when the aliens arrive. That was his 6 words. But until then, our inbox is always open, and it's always interesting, thanks to the Earthlings who share their truth with us. Thanks to the Peabody committee, to the board members. It's been such an honor to meet so many of you today. And thanks also to my mom and dad, Betty and Belvin Norris. They taught me that everyone in this world can teach you something. Thank you very much.
Latino Americans chronicles Latino history in the United States from the 16th century to today.
Many people have this popular vision of Latinos as people who arrived day before yesterday. But when you think about the first European settlement in what would become the United States, it's St. Augustine in 1565. That predates Jamestown in 1607. The first European language spoken in what would become the United States, it's Spanish.
Accepting the Peabody is series producer Adriana Bosch.
Thank you very much. It's quite an honor to receive this award, and I'm accepting it on behalf of a wonderful team of people who are now behind me. Executive producer Jeff Bieber, producer Nina Alvarez, executive producer Sandy Pedlo, producer Salma Lopez, producer Dan McKay, producer John Alvarez, John Valadez, I'm sorry, and of course we've got the great Eddie Olmos, who honors us with his presence today. He is the head of Latino Public Broadcasting who supported this project. I also want to thank Sharon Rockefeller from WIDA, who was a force behind this, and Dalton Dealing for helping us out and being supportive as well. I have to say that we are very proud to receive this. It's an honor not just for us, but just to recognize 500 years of a people, of an American people that had not been done on television before. And it is on their behalf that we worked very hard, and we feel that this award really belongs to everyone who now lives in our Latin America series, and also the people who they represent. I want to thank our sponsors, people who supported this project, and they include CPB, PBS, ITBS, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, Arthur Vining Davis Foundation, Summerlee Foundation, and the Ford Motor Company. I also want to thank my friend Ray Tellez, who's not here. He had to stay in San Francisco, and all these people really, this belongs to all of us. This is not just mine. And thank you all for this. And you'll each try to get one, I'm sure. Okay? Thank you very much.
The Bridge is based on a Scandinavian series with the same name, and the Scandinavian version, a dead body, was cut in half and found on a bridge that connects Sweden and Denmark. The new version begins the same way, a body cut in half, only this time it's on the border between El Paso, Texas and Juarez, Mexico. There are 2 detectives, one Mexican, one American, that try to solve the crime. Some of the shows in English, some in Spanish with subtitles. One storyline refers to the lost girls of Juarez. There's nearly 400 women who've been murdered there. For spotlighting border issues that are rarely seen on mainstream US television, while at the same time creating this totally compelling murder mystery, a Peabody Award goes to The Bridge.
Did you take money from that woman?
What woman?
On the bridge, to let her pass.
No.
They say you all corrupt. Mexican police, you all take bribes?
Not all of us. The cartels threaten everyone, and sometimes for some people it's a lot easier to just look the other way, for a price, of course.
They give you money so you won't do the police work.
Not exactly. They tell you plata o plomo. Take our silver, take our lead.
Executive producer and showrunner Elwood Reid and executive producer Meredith Stiehm are here to accept the Peabody Award.
Thank you so much for noticing this show among so much good work that's being done. What's happening in Juarez and El Paso deserves to be noticed, we think. Not only the drug war madness, but the girls of Juarez. These girls are going missing. They're being snatched and killed with impunity. No one's investigating. The families have no recourse. And it's all happening a pedestrian bridge away from El Paso, Texas, one of America's safest cities. And we've all walked across that bridge, everyone up here on stage. I really have a lot of people to thank for being able to tell this sort of undertold story, starting with Carolyn Bernstein from Shine. Thank you for bringing me the project and trusting me with it, and Elwood Reid, who insisted that Mexico was the place that we had to set this border story. That was not our original plan, and he was right that we had to do the adaptation and tell the story of Texas, America, and Mexico.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank FX, because when they originally wanted to do the show, they wanted to set it up in Canada, and I thought that Canada wasn't the most riveting political arena to set a show in. And I just want to put a plug for the person in the organization that really sort of was the germ of the idea to set it down in Ciudad Juarez in El Paso, and that's a reporter by the name of Demián, who, if you've been reading the New York Times this week, has been doing a cover piece along the border, starting in Nuevo Laredo, and he's going to follow this sort of immigrant story all along through that border area. Really important stuff that really sparked our imagination and allowed FX, you know, to be able to put a bilingual show on the air. And to that end, I'd like to introduce our star, Demián Bichir. Say a few words.
Es un honor para todos nosotros, a nombre de todos los que hacemos The Bridge. Muchas gracias a los Peabody Awards y a la Universidad de Georgia. Señor Presidente Obama, detenga las deportaciones. Please, President Obama, stop deportations.
Broadway musicals, A Jewish Legacy, is about, I mean, the simplest way to say it is it's about the disproportionate number of Jews in musical theater.
One of the ways that Jewish songwriters on Broadway wrote about the experience of being Jewish is by writing about other outsiders. I'm not going to tell you the story of Jews in America, but I am going to tell you the story of an African American on a riverboat. I'm going to use somebody else's story to tell you mine. The more that Jews are not writing about Jews, I think you could argue is when they're actually writing the most about Jews.
Right, the original lyrics to that riverboat song is talking about old man chopped liver. Here to accept is writer, director, and producer Michael Kantor.
Thank you. On behalf of Barbara Brilliant, the woman who had the vision to create our series, our program rather, Albert Tapper, our executive producer, the man who made it happen, David Horn of Great Performances, who helped bring the show to millions, and the one and only Joel Grey, our narrator. I thank you all. I'd like to offer a special shout out to the mighty Jan Gura, our co-producer, and the remarkable Chris Leam, our editor, and major funders like Patty and Jay Baker and Roz Goldstein, who are here with us tonight. If you've missed the film, it's available on Great Performance's website at pbs.org. It's such a joy. All I can do is quote Ira Gershwin when he says, "Swonderful."
I don't know if you all noticed the Jewish influence on the Peabody Awards here at the Waldorf Astoria, that each of you was given a copy of the Peabody Award as Hanukkah Gelt at your table. The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross, with Henry Louis Gates Jr., is this complicated, idea-filled history of 5 centuries of African Americans in this country.
The African American people have played a central role in building this country since before its inception. Never losing sight of the dream that one day the United States would finally achieve that more perfect union. Looking back on the last 500 years reminds us that when the weakest members of society take history into their own hands, they can change the world.
Accepting the Peabody as executive producer, host, and director, Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr.
Thank you very much. It's such a great honor. I can't believe it. In 1968, in January, I was 17 years old, living in an Irish-Italian paper mill town in eastern West Virginia, about halfway between Pittsburgh and Washington. It's where all my family for 250 years has lived. We had a 12-inch RCA Victor television. You remember those TVs, black and white? And I sat in our living room and watched the first documentary that I'd ever seen about what we now call African American history. It was Bill Cosby's show on CBS called Black History, Lost, Stolen, or Strayed. And I didn't even know what African American history was. And I was so moved that a year later, when I started my undergraduate education at Yale, I enrolled in a 2-semester course on African American history. And secretly, when I watched that documentary, I dreamed, just a deep fantasy, that maybe one day I could make a film like that too. In 1991, I moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, started teaching at Harvard, and I got a call from a guy named Henry Hampton. And I went over to Henry Hampton's Blackside studio in South Boston, and I went, wow, you know, this is the man who did Eyes on the Prize. Maybe he needs a presenter, a guy in front of the camera. And I sort of sneaked that in the conversation. He said, no, not really. I don't really need to do that. So I decided to try to do this on my own. Now, the Bible says, be careful what you wish for, because surely it will be thine. I hooked up with 2 people, Dylan McGee and Peter Kuhnhart, and we've been a team for over 10 years. And we realized that no one had made a documentary about the full sweep of African American history since Bill Cosby in 1968. And so 45 years later, we decided to do it, and the result was the African Americans, Many Lives, Many Rivers to Cross, and it was dedicated in honor of my friend, Henry Hampton. I want to thank the people who really brought me here, and that is my dream team behind me, Peter and Dylan, Rachel Dretson, Sacco Gladstone, Jamila Wignot, Phil Burleson, and Sabin Streeter. And I want to thank my friends at PBS. Who else would put a 6-hour documentary about 500 years of African American history on television but PBS? You know, they say black people won't watch public television. But guess what? You give them programming, black people will watch public television. We reach 35% of all black households in the United States with this series, and I'm very, very proud of that. I want to thank the people who wrote the checks. It made it possible for us to do our series. Michael Sneed at Johnson & Johnson, Howard and Abby Milstein, Georgette Bennett and Leonard Polanski, Darren Walker at the Ford Foundation. Just the generosity and spirit behind me has touched me so much. We accept this award on behalf of the African American people who gave their lives and sacrificed so much to produce the moment when Barack Obama finally would be elected President of the United States. Thank you very much.
In Comedy Central's very smart and very funny Key and Peele, Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele tackle racially charged issues and ideas like nobody else on television. Can I just say they are also beloved for a series of sketches, we have one of them here, that feel like they rose out of our nation's collective unconscious, like they expressed something that we all just needed somebody to say. Like these sketches scratch this like itch you didn't even know you had until they pointed it out. Here is the clip. If you haven't seen all of these, make your life better, do yourself a favor, watch them all online later. No kidding.
Okay, let's talk about last week's game. You guys lost a heartbreaker. Give me your state of mind then versus now.
Wanted to do play-by-play, give it 100%, execution-wise, execute.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you something completely different that's not about football. Look at me, Oz. Just look at me for a second. I'm gonna ask you a question. Right here, attaboy. So you and your wife recently had, right here, stay with me. You and your wife recently had twins, okay? How does it feel to be a new dad?
We wanted to stay as a team, execute, give 100%, play-by-play.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do a little test right now. Hey Oz, how'd you get to the game today?
They're a good team, great team, 100%.
Accepting the Peabody Award of co-executive producers and co-stars, Keegan-Michael Key and the man that Barack Obama says the best Barack Obama imitation in the world, Jordan Peele.
Thank you very much. This is so weird that all these cool people here, and I can't help but watch the big screen up here instead of looking at people in the face. Thank you so much. This is such an honor for us. We at our show, we start with just the simple desire to want to get laughs. And somewhere in that journey to find the funny of the different things that we explore, I think we end up uncovering little pieces of truth almost by accident. So this is such an honor for us because it is so much more than we ever thought we were attempting to achieve.
Keegan? Yep. I just wanted to say thank you to our executive producers and director, Jay Martell and Ian Roberts and Joel Sadak here, our executive producers, and our wonderful director, Peter Atencio, who makes all of our sketches look like $6 million movies. Just 6 million, not any more than that. No, but just he does beautiful. Just he makes everything come to life and brings another level to it. And also, we'd like to thank just the Peabody board for this. This is overwhelming. It really is, because we're just sitting in rooms trying to make each other crack up. And also, we'd like to thank Comedy Central for giving us the opportunity to show the African American experience as not a monolith, because it's not. It's so many different stories, and the danger of the world sometimes is trying to assign a single story to an entire group of people, and we have so many different stories. And so we thank you, Comedy Central, for doing that for us. And also, just like to thank everybody here, and also the Peabodys, just for allowing us. It makes me feel like we have something else to achieve, that to live up to what this is, so that we continue our work onward and upward. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
The story of film, an Odyssey, is a history of motion pictures illustrated.
When sound came along, film was grounded more, it became more of a social thing, but in the silent period, it was almost like a magic carpet ride, it was floating, and so Douglas Fairbanks and Greta Garbo weren't really rooted in one country. We couldn't say there's an American, there's a Swede.
International.
They were international. Stroheim and Chaplin and these great directors, and the great women directors as well, and Keaton, etc. These people they were coming up, they were inventing an art form.
Accepting the Peabody Award is Robert Osborne, the host of Turner Classic Movies.
Thank you very much. I'm here actually representing Table 8 over here, full of Turner Classic Movies people. They were all involved in the story of film, the history of film. These two gentlemen right here particularly, this first one, hello, nice to see you. Mark Cousins, he spent 6 years going to 120 countries, investigating their film industries, photographing it, interviewing, doing everything about it and put this terrific documentary together in 15 parts. So it was 15 hours, 15 and a half hours actually of film. Then Charlie Tabish, who is our programming genius at Turner Classic Movies, he took all that, and around those movies, which I think was so great, he got films from each of those countries, full-length feature films, and we showed them around the documentaries. I got involved getting to sit with Mark and talk about the movies before we showed them, talk about Mark, about his adventures in getting them together, and then when Mark wasn't around, I introduced the movies. So it was a very collaborative effort on everybody's part. We're very proud of it. It's the biggest thing Turner has ever done. And we're so proud to get this Peabody Award. People have called TCM the American Cinematheque, and I really kind of think we are now. But if we're not, the encouragement of this award and encouragement from people like the Peabody people certainly will make us strive towards that. So thank you very much for that. And I have to say, this is our 20th anniversary, and this couldn't be a better present for a birthday gift than this Peabody Award. So thanks so much. Thank you.
This year was the final season of one of the best TV series ever, Breaking Bad, which won its first Peabody Award in 2008. Back in 2008, the winner's citation pointed to a conflicted Walter White, a man facing, quote, moral questions that became more and more difficult for him and the audience. As the years rolled forward, the evolution of the story and of each of the characters just got better and more complicated and always somehow very real, something very real. These elaborate plots that took entire seasons to pay off, but somehow you never felt the writers forcing it. For developing as it did, for getting better and better, for the beautiful, concise precision of the writing and acting choices, Breaking Bad wins the rare honor of a second Peabody Award.
All the things that I did, you need to understand.
If I have to hear one more time that you did this for the family.
I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was really I was alive.
Star and producer Bryan Cranston will accept the Peabody Award.
Thank you, Ira. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for this great honor, and we are just overjoyed to be able to be the recipients of a second Peabody. But as everyone in this room knows, you can't do it alone, and certainly Breaking Bad wouldn't have received this award without the encouragement and support of the great people standing behind me. Well, you know who you are. 7 years ago, Vince Gilligan, the creator of the show, had this idea of turning a good man into a bad one. And so he played this parlor game that we've all played at home. What would you do if you had 2 years to live? How would you live your life? And Walter White lived that in his own world. He took this to an innovative, forward-thinking company, studio, Sony Television. They, in turn, introduced it to a courageous network, AMC, and because of that union, we were able to realize this incredible storytelling. On behalf of everybody and my friends who I thought were gonna follow me on stage, but didn't, we are We greatly appreciate this award. We will honor it forever and ever. And thank you so much. And in Danish, tak men tak.
A Short History of the Highrise is an ingeniously constructed interactive documentary from the New York Times OpDocs project about 2,500 years of vertical living.
On a global scale, it's a dawning of a new millennial age. Towers made of glass rise, and with them, another ideology takes center stage. Housing is no longer built as a tool for social equity and equilibrium. It's now a financial instrument of market capitalism. They call it the condominium.
Here to accept the Peabody Award are the executive producer of the New York Times, Jason Springarnkoff, and Katerina Zizik, writer and director of the National Film Board of Canada.
Thank you, Peabody Board, for this great honor. I want to thank my colleagues at the New York Times, especially Andy Rosenthal and the editorial department, and the brilliant interactive developer, Jackie Mint. And I'm so grateful to the National Film Board of Canada for this very special collaboration with producer Jerry Flahive and director Kat Zizek.
This is so great. With this collaborative experiment, we really hope to reimagine electronic storytelling using old, forgotten photographs from the New York Times archives, using new digital technologies, and the power of documentary to shed light on that stuff that's in front of us, those injustices that are just invisible to the naked eye. And so we really were so humbled that the Peabodys and the University of Georgia would honor the tradition of documentary and the innovation of the internet. And in Canadian, I'd just like to say, thanks, eh?
Six by Sondheim is part biography, part performance. It's like a master's class in Broadway melody and lyrics.
I had 3 successes my first 3 times out. They were not personal successes. I got terrible reviews or completely ignored. But they were successes. I was making a living. I could afford to write another show. Anyone Can Whistle, which came next, when I saw that it was going to be a failure, I thought I'd be devastated, and I wasn't. I was disappointed that more of my friends wouldn't get a chance to see the show. And that's really the extent of it. You know, it wasn't sort of resilience and chin up. It was, you know, I like writing songs. I like writing shows.
Executive producer and director James Lapine, who's also Sondheim's frequent collaborator, will accept the Peabody Award.
Thanks so much. It's overwhelming to be in the company of such incredible work on such important subjects. This has been just a glorious experience. I want to thank HBO, particularly Sheila Nevins, Nancy Abraham, Susan Benaroya, but Sheila's been the great spirit behind it. And my collaborator, Frank Rich, who is as knowledgeable about musical theater and Stephen Sondheim as anybody I know. Our incredible editor, Mickey Wolf, who just did incredible work. If you see this, it's 50 years of archival footage cut together. And our great producer, Liz Stanton. And Frank's going to say a few words.
Just on both of our behalf, we want to thank Steve Sondheim, who is a great artist, but also a fantastic person, and who gave us his proxy to do this film with no censorship, very little input until almost a final cut, because he trusted us, and we hope we were worthy of his trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Broadchurch revolves around the murder of an 11-year-old boy with sharp writing and complex characters.
Why didn't you mention that you and Danny fell out?
I thought you already knew.
In these emails, Danny's asking you to stay away from him. Says he doesn't want to see you anymore, and you're no longer friends. Why was that?
He said he found a new friend. Someone who understood him better than me.
You write to Danny. I wish you were dead. He replies, wishing won't make it happen. You email back, I could kill you if I wanted.
Oh, for God's sake, that's just kids, just boys falling out.
Did you kill Danny, Tom?
Come on.
I'm talking to your son, Joe, not you.
Perry Simon, General Manager of the BBC, will accept the Peabody Award.
Thank you. So on behalf of writer-creator Chris Chibnall, Kudos Films producers, and all of us at BBC America, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the George Foster Peabody Awards for this recognition. Chris Chibnall, the Kudos producers, would have loved to have been here. They were actually in London last night collecting 3 BAFTA awards. That's television's highest honor, including Best Series. So this is truly, Broadchurch, a global phenomenon. Captivated audiences, it garnered critical acclaim on both sides of the Atlantic, and it really represents quality contemporary British drama at the height of its craft. So thank you to all of you, and congratulations to all of the other nominees, especially Orphan Black. Thank you so much.
Now we turn to stories of people and places slowly transforming from one thing into another, and people adapting to those slow seismic changes. How to Survive a Plague uses videotape shot by AIDS activists to tell the story of ACT UP.
One day, this woman just showed up, this housewife, who had been a scientist and still was, and said, you guys don't know diddly about what this is. And anybody who wants to learn about the system, how it works, how grants are made, how the science works, how everything works, how the NIH works, how the FDA works, how you can deal with all this enormous amount of material, I'll teach you.
There should be much more funding than there is for infectious diseases.
Iris was not gay, but she could not see with what was going on around her and what she knew, not reaching out to the affected communities of AIDS.
Director David France will accept the Peabody.
Thank you. When Joy Thompson, my executive producer, and I began telling people a number of years ago that we were going to make a film that was an uplifting story of AIDS in America, reasonable people became very concerned. But we knew that alongside the story of death and indifference, which was criminal and can't be forgotten, was also a story of unexpected heroes and real radical change in America. The story that we told in How to Survive a Plague is the story of AIDS treatment activists, self-trained in science, who interacted and became colleagues with the scientists who brought about the drug revolution that today is keeping 10 million people alive. I want to thank the Peabody Board for this honor, and thanks especially to Paula Kerger at PBS and Lois Fossen at Independent Lens for putting us in America's living rooms, to Ford Foundation and to Sundance, Impact Partners, and others who helped us get the film made, to my husband and mentor, Jonathan Starch, who brought the first one of these into our house, and especially to my friend and collaborator, Joy Thompson.
You know, we wouldn't be here with getting this honor tonight if it wasn't for our amazing team of editors and producers. Special thanks to our co-executive producer, Alan Getz, and to our really close friend and supporter, Susan Thames. But most of all, our deepest admiration, most of all, my deepest admiration goes to the brilliant David France, who brought together the How to Survive a Plague family to make this film. We can't forget the women and men of ACT UP and Treatment Action Group who entrusted their stories to us, and every single day, they inspire us every single day. Until there's a cure, this fight goes on.
How are you guys holding up? It's a really long ceremony. I hope somebody warned you. There's so many. I was like going over the script for this thing yesterday, and I was like on the 40th or what? I was like, am I still doing this? Like, is this still, like, it's really long. There's no way around it. 46 winners. Life According to Sam is about Sam Burns, who is 13, but he looks much older because of progeria, which is this rare disease that's manifested by accelerated aging. There's a whole plot in the film about the parents and trying to get him a new drug that might extend his life, but what makes it such a great film is just this kid, is just Sam. He's just a thoughtful, interesting, special person.
I wish I could ride any roller coaster I wanted to ride, like, ever. Like, I wish I could, like, you know, do loop-de-loops and corkscrews and stuff and barrel rolls. Even though I'm, like, terrified of them, it would be, like, cool to know that I could try them out. I didn't put myself in front of you to have you feel bad for me. I put myself in front of you to let you know that you don't need to feel bad for me, because I want you to get to know me. This is my life. And this progeria is part of it. It's not a major part of it, but it is part of it.
Producer, director, and director of photography Sean Fine will accept the Peabody Award.
And my wife, Andrea, who we direct together. So we want to thank, I mean, this whole thing is about stories that matter, and it takes balls to tell stories that matter. And there's certain networks that allow you to do that. HBO is one of those networks, and we're very proud to have worked on this film with them, and they gave us the ability to do this. And this is also an award of excellence, and I'm looking down at it, and I feel very honored to get this award. From the Peabody Awards. And I'm looking at all you, and there's famous people out here, and I think I have to say something important. But there's one person that's not here, and that's Sam. Because Sam passed away this year. And I feel like I'm looking out here, but he's here. And I want to thank him for making us better. I want to thank his parents for allowing us into their lives and to make us better, to make us better storytellers. And I want to tell you a story about that. The first time we went to interview Sam, because I don't want this to be depressing as well, but the first time we went to interview Sam, we sat down in Leslie and Scott's house, and they let us interview their son, who was 13 at the time, and the first people to ever interview him. And we asked him the first question, and he looked at me and he said, "Don't you want to probably ask that question at the end and not the beginning? It probably would be better." And that's kind of how the next 3 years went with Sam. And I thank you, Sam, for that, because you made us better storytellers. Every frame we captured, every edit we made with our amazing editor, Jeff Consiglio, on this project, we thought of you. We wanted to make you proud, and I hope we have, and we dedicate this to you and your parents, and you're forever in our hearts.
Hollow is a reinvention of what a documentary can be. It's this beautiful website that tells the stories of over 30 different people in one county, McDowell, West Virginia, with more sweep and scale than you can actually get a sense from a short clip, but here's one anyway.
We moved here from another state, and we're definitely off track on our original intentions. But moving here from, I would say, almost any other state's almost like moving to another world. And for myself, it's not that hard. For my wife, it's extremely hard.
We come across the building and we thought it would be a good idea to get it, to restore it, to make North Fork look a little better. I'd like to help rebuild North Fork, make it more clean, have it to where more people would enjoy coming through here instead of coming through here and saying, "Ew, that's dirty." Some people want to change and some people don't care.
Here to accept the Peabody is director and producer Elaine McMillion Sheldon.
It's a huge honor to be here. Thanks to the University of Georgia and the Peabody Board for this award. A couple years ago, we had an idea that the stories of Appalachia and the stories of West Virginia have been told in a lot of different ways, but what happens if you give a community cameras and allow them to actually participate in that experience? And the person you saw on screen, Sean, shot some of the most powerful footage in the documentary. And it was a real collaborative experience, and it's really exciting to see the Peabody Board acknowledge not only interactive storytelling, but community-driven storytelling. Behind me is a brilliant designer, Jeff Stoik, who was user experience designer on the website. Thanks to our team, Billy Werasnik, sound designer, Robert and Russell, our developers, Sarah and Kern, our editors, Tricia for the reporting and research. And this project wouldn't be possible without the McDowell County residents that devoted hours to this project with us, Tribeca Film Institute's New Media Grant, Kickstarter, and West Virginia Humanities Council. We're super thrilled, and this is for Appalachia.
A Chef's Life does a nuanced, non-stereotypical portrait of rural and small-town America down south, and a very unsensational depiction of what it's like to work in a restaurant.
Making preserves is something that we do a lot of in our restaurant, but it's also something that housewives in the South have been doing for generations and generations, and they're the true masters of it. Today we're going to make strawberry preserves with Annette Brothers, the mother of Warren, one of my favorite farmers.
So Miss Brothers, can you tell me a little bit about this recipe?
This was my grandmother's recipe. It's written down in the back of this old jar of cooking.
Oh wow, this is so neat.
Talent and writer Vivian Howard will accept the Peabody.
I've heard our show, sorry everybody, I'm nervous. Oh, there I am, okay. I've heard our show called many things. I've heard it called a reality show, a cooking show, a family drama, and a documentary film series. But I think the show's director, Cynthia Hill, and my partner in clawing and scratching this thing into existence said it best when she called A Chef's Life a love letter to Eastern North Carolina, to rural America told through the lens of food. Thank you so much to the Peabody Board for even considering our series. For a production whose budget was made up of stubbornness and passion, to be here is truly overwhelming. Thank you to Amy Shoemaker from SCETV for seeing us spark in our sizzle reel. And for PBS in general for allowing us to make the show that we wanted to make. Thank you to our dedicated team, Rex Miller and Josh Wall, for chasing that magic hour around Eastern North Carolina for years now. Tom Vickers, Ung Kyung Ho, that's hard for me, Southern girl. Margaret, the folks at Trailblazers, Melinda Lowry, and all the pig farmers who believed in our project from the very beginning. I want to thank my partner in life, Ben Knight, for going along on another one of my little projects. And my family, of course, because they've been so generous with their time and their own story. And because everyone is saying thank you in their own language, thank you all.
And I just wanted to say thank you to Vivian. It's really hard to open up your life in this kind of way that she and Ben and the rest of her family have done. And we're so grateful, and I think that the audience is grateful too. So thank you, Vivian.
Thank you.
The creator of Orange is the New Black, Jenji Cohen, once explained the mission of the show this way. She said that the white, college-educated blonde lady who gets thrown into prison was just her Trojan horse. That's the phrase she used. Quote, "You're not going to go to a network and sell a show on really fascinating tales of black women and Latino women and old women and criminals, but But if you take this white girl, this sort of fish out of water, and you follow her in, you can then expand your world and tell all those other stories. And she and her writers have tried to make good on that premise. They've told stories of incarcerated women of all kinds. They've tried to show the real world ways that race and class and power play out between people. The show is funny and it's heartbreaking and sometimes actually kind of hopeful.
I have a wife. What? A prison wife. Her name is Crazy Eyes and she follows me everywhere. That really happened? Jeez. Are eyes like bulgy or across, or is one lid kind of droopy? What kind of crazy? They're just crazy. They're just full of crazy. It's terrifying. I'm afraid to tell Larry because I don't want him to worry, but she's extremely persistent. She follows me everywhere. She threw pie for me. Did she rape you? No, she didn't rape me. Oh. But she held my hand. Aw, that's kind of sweet.
Executive producer Lisa Vinacore and producer Neri Tannenbaum will accept the Peabody Award.
We are so honored by receiving this award and so proud to accept it on behalf of our brilliant creator and executive producer, Jenji Kohan, our amazing and talented cast, and our incredibly devoted crew. We want to thank Piper Kerman, who told her story so beautifully and inspired us to make the show. We want to thank our wonderful partners at Netflix, especially Cindy Holland, and at Lionsgate. Thank you to the Peabody Board and the University of Georgia. The Peabody Awards recognizes stories that matter, and in the case of Orange is the New Black, that couldn't be more true. In the United States, we incarcerate more people per capita than any other nation in the world, and what happens there is hidden from view. So it's vital for storytellers to step up and share the stories of those lives who have been unseen to ensure they are seen and to help create change. Thank you so much.